Welcome to the Novel Network podcast. We are your hosts, Derek and Libby, and we have Cole Chase here with us tonight, and we're ready to talk about everything that happens to bring his book to life, or his books, if you have multiple.
Multiple books.
You have multiple? How many books do you have, Cole?
6 right now.
Nice. All part of one series?
Yes, the Shadowfast series.
I think this is going to be an interesting... See, Libby knows more about you and your books than I do, so I'm learning all about you tonight.
All right. It's literature's only heavy metal heist crew.
Such a
That
good
sounds like so much fun.
It is to me. It is literally army buddies who formed a metal band, and then it evolved into a heist crew, and so they go around the world not only disguised as a metal band, but actually a metal band. And then that way there's a reason why all these guys seem to be in the same city where a con happens or a robbery happens or whatever.
Okay.
Yeah.
I love that idea.
It's such a good idea. And you've been semi-rapid releasing, haven't you?
Yeah, my first book came out in October 2023, and I've been releasing them as trilogies. So, because when I released the first one, I realized you can't really just sell one book on Amazon and go there. So it was a longish story. So I split it up across 3 books, and it was a trilogy of thrillers. And in one of my newsletters, I nicknamed it a Thrillogy, which amused people. So now they're literally the Shadowfast Thrillogies. And when I made the first one, I didn't realize I was going to do a second one. So you have this thing called the Shadowfast Thrillogy, and then there's another one. So they wind up, now the first one's called the Skyhouse Thrillogy because that's the bad guys that they're fighting, and the second one is the Valiant Thrillogy. And the Valiant Thrillogy just finished coming out in April. The audiobooks just landed on Audible today, so pretty excited about it.
I'm excited about that because I started the first one and I absolutely love it, but I don't have time to read. I just don't have time to read. So I need Audible or audiobooks so I can listen while I work the task.
Very cool. Right. So how long have you been writing for then?
Oh, gosh. I was first published in Teen Quest magazine at the age of 13.
Really?
Yeah. I caught on to the idea. I was raised in a very strict church environment, and they had these little Sunday school take-home papers they give out, and I found out, and they give them to whatever denomination you're in, they're giving them out the same one all over the nation. And I found out that if you could get published in that thing, they would pay you $25. And that was big money when I was 13. Of
course.
So I just wrote to them constantly to the point where when I was 15, they did a feature on me calling me Teen with a Typewriter.
So you became a monthly thing?
Not quite monthly, but I've written a lot. And then I grew up in the publishing industry. My dad was a book sales rep for various publishers. So I got traditionally published for the first time in the 80s. Later formed a little book packaging company. All these small to medium publishers, when they get a manuscript, now they got to do a bunch of stuff before it becomes a book on a shelf. And I could do all of it. So we offered services a la carte. We could edit, we could design the cover, we could write the jacket copy, typeset, whatever they needed. So I have, I'm up to 10 books I've written myself, but probably coming up towards 80 that I've been involved in. So, yes.
That's amazing.
Words.
Do you ever get tired of words?
Yes and no. I took a little 10-year detour where I was a video producer. So
okay. Man of many talents.
I kept writing through that too. Yeah, I was a video producer for Dell for 8 years or so. So over 500 corporate videos in that amount of time. So
okay. Is that like troubleshooting kind of stuff?
It was everything. We did advertisements. A lot of it was training videos. And I joke that it was literally over 500 videos, but I felt like it was 5 videos 100 times each. because it's either the executive pep talk or the screen
Right.
capture of how to do whatever. Or, there's just a few basic types.
Man, you have so much. You are like a network yourself. Um,
I can
you
only
are.
imagine the well of knowledge in that head.
I
I
wish
know.
it felt more like that.
So you were first published traditionally. How does that
Yes.
compare to, because you're indie published now,
Well,
correct?
absolutely. Yes,
How does it
from
compare?
offering services to publishers, I began to realize, okay, they're going to take most of the money. Like the last book I had traditionally published was in 2001, and it was kind of a big book. It had national distribution. It was in Walmart, all that stuff. It was a big fat paperback, kind of like a For Dummies book, if you remember
Okay.
those.
Yep. They're still
$25
around.
retail. My cut of that, 80 cents. That's how Trad Pub works.
It's
So
Wow.
so,
when you realize
it's
you're taking
theft.
all that money, when you're by yourself and you're like, I need a cover, you can buy the fanciest cover on earth for $300. I
Right.
mean, there's no reason to give someone money from now on for making your cover, in my
Yeah.
thinking. I saw someone compare it to if somebody mowed your lawn, but the terms of mowing your lawn was when you sell your house, I get 40%. It's like,
Yeah. Oh, wow. Yeah.
if they do a cover and they edit, it's significant and important, but it's in cash, it's whatever, under 5 grand for sure, and probably 2 grand. So to give them most of the money forever is a little bit of a sucker's game unless there's something else in it for you. So
Yeah.
I could publish ebooks on Amazon for $3 and make more than my $25 paperback did in Walmart.
Right.
That's the
That's
math.
crazy.
That's crazy. Yeah. I was just telling people I had a small place close to me that wants to have my book in it. It's kind of linked up to Indigo and Kohl's, but it's like a sister kind of spot. 45% is what they take from each sale. And I had people going, wow, 45%.
They make more than you do
So,
after cost.
yeah. I'm like, I have to bump up the price of my book just to still get like a few bucks back in my pocket.
It's criminal.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's crazy.
I mean, the big thing TradPub offers, they were completely oriented around moving paper all over the nation. So I don't have distribution into Barnes and Noble except online. You know what I mean? And all the big chains. So it's still tempting. I'm not against traditionally published. I think ideally almost every author could be hybrid, do
Mm-hmm.
some themselves and do some with the normal publishers.
Now, would you give any advice to any authors that may be indie thinking of going to trad? Like, say if a hypothetical situation, if a traditional publishing company wanted to acquire that already indie published book.
Wow. Well, sure. I mean, step one, hire an entertainment lawyer who knows this space because, uh, and I'm not saying trad pub people are evil. They're sticking up for their end, though.
They need to
And
make money.
so it's going to
Yeah.
say these weird things like if any medium of communication is invented in the known universe into infinity, it's ours. You need a lawyer to go, you know what? You can have the ebook and I'll have the audiobook or, whatever terms
Yeah.
you want. Because they're going to go, when holograms are a thing, that was already implied in our contract. Yeah. So
Yeah, right.
you just need someone who,
To look over everything.
yeah. And a lot of times the acquiring editor at the traditional publishing place will be very friendly. And I'm still friends with some of them. And they'll tell you that everything is standard and boilerplate, whether it is or not. So it just helps to have someone who's on your side and who understands that, they can give you something on page 7 that they take away on page 13 of the contract.
Right.
So you have to
And
be
then,
very, very detail oriented when you're reading them.
yes. And then the other thing to get used to is everything moves much, much more slowly in general with TradPub. I mean, the books I had that way, they'd have the manuscript and the book would come out 14 months later or something. So that's part of the fun of being indie is that you can get a book out in 5 months if that's what you really want to do.
Yeah. I like indie because I have full control and I get the money in my pocket instead of giving it all to someone who
Yeah.
did none of the work.
Derek, how many books do you have out?
I just released my 12th back in April. Primeval Ranch. It's
Congratulations.
the third in my dinosaur series. Yeah, it's been a fun series to write. So I see you've got one of your books, Cold Hit, in the background there.
Yeah, that's the start of the second Thrillogy.
I love that. I love the English language that you can play like
Yes.
that.
Yeah, and so part of what's unique about my thrillers, I'm not finding as many people in the market doing this as I kind of wish there were. The trend in action thrillers is always kind of lone vigilante, might be the term. You know, Jack Reacher is a
John
force
Wick.
unto himself. John
John
Wick,
Wick.
yum.
Love John
uh,
Wick.
yeah. John Rain, Mitch Rapp. I
Uh,
mean, all these guys, they're lone.
Mm-hmm.
When I think about my life, all the things that I did that I think are the coolest and that I'm most proud of was done with a team. So I write, I don't know, I have a term for it. I've been calling them ensemble thrillers.
mm-hmm.
I
So
like
now you
it.
think of something like Ocean's 11, you know, with a whole bunch of guys
Yes.
in on it,
Which
or
I love
Mission
those movies.
Impossible. Oh, me too.
Yes.
Yeah.
Even the A Team, you know.
Yep.
So there's a big, strong sense of family, you know, the family of
Mm,
friends that you chose for yourself.
yep.
Yes.
So that makes it different from a lot of the thrillers. Otherwise, uh, a lot of it's heist, it's action, it's cons, it's quite a melding of fun stuff.
Team building.
Yeah.
Let's do a team
Yeah,
building
and
exercise this weekend, guys. We're going to go rob a bank.
yeah, exactly. And on the trust vault, don't fall.
Yeah.
Yes.
But you know, readers have, in reviewing it, have said that they like the sense of this team, that they're for each other. It is very much a sense of them against the world. Uh, you know, in the classic sense, the heavy metal band was outsiders. Now, kind of the same way, if you see a bunch of really badass motorcycles, you know it's a dentist convention. You
Mm-hmm.
know, you see a heavy metal band, it's probably older guys and they've got jobs and all that. But as a music, it started out as an outsider thing. So these guys are portrayed as outsiders.
I love it. What background? So I'm phrasing this wrong. Hold on. What in your background have you brought into your books in terms of like your own life, your experiences, your research? Um,
Oh, thanks
Take
for
because
my
that.
question.
yeah, I want to know. You have such a vast background of what we've learned
Yeah.
already. I want to know more.
Well, I mean, I'm sure you guys are the same. The whole time you're writing your brains out, you got to make a living. So, you know, you have a day job. And my career for a while, and kind of my favorite part of my career, I was a freelance writer and my income was sinking fast because of the churn. Like you get a job, you write this thing, you get paid. Now you got to go find another customer. And so there was an internet security company in Seattle that was looking for someone. They were writing about network security to small and medium businesses. That was their customer. And they found that they could have their engineers write the technical documentation and nobody understood it in their target audience. So they went, we want somebody who can write it as if it's like a magazine and it's kind of fun, but it still tells you how to do it. So I wound up getting that job, even though I didn't know anything about network security. I'd always had fun playing with computers, but you know, I was no hacker. This was long about 2000. And they trained the living heck out of me. They sent me to stuff. They had engineers sit me in a room with a whiteboard and just teach me. And I really took to it because there's like this arms race between the good guys and the bad guys. You know, we used to
Right.
call white
Yeah.
hat and black hat, but that's not a cool way to put it anymore. But you know, there's malicious actors and actors of integrity. Um, so I wound up getting certified as an information system security professional, and I was certified in NSA methodologies. And over time, I wrote or edited something like 1,600 security alerts. I became kind of an evangelist for their product. I spoke all over the country at these security conventions. All that to say, all the hacking and the tech stuff in my novels is real and feasible.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's fictitious, but
Right.
Yeah.
a person could do it. And it's not like, I even make fun of the movie Swordfish in one of the books because they make it look like if you're a hacker, it's because you have 6 monitors. And if you have
Yeah,
6
right.
monitors, you can do a hack in 60 seconds. It takes
They have
other
to
people.
Hollywoodize it, right? Yeah.
Yeah, because it's really not that interesting to watch a guy typing at a keyboard or a woman typing at a keyboard.
Yeah.
So that's in there a lot. And
I love
again,
that.
people seem to really enjoy that. One of the things in Metal Spies, uh, there are self-driving cars in the book. And you find out fairly early in the book that a malicious hacker has hacked them and put facial recognition software in them. So they're just normal self-driving cars unless they see this one astrophysicist, and then they turn into murder machines. They're programmed, if they facially recognize her with all their onboard cover, run her over.
Oh.
And that is a hack that somebody really did, that was featured at DEF CON one year. And then, of course, the car people, they get to find out how it was done, and they build in things so now it cannot happen, at least not that way. But it is a real thing someone did. And so that's all throughout the books. I'm looking, maybe 5 minutes into the future, just a little shy of science fiction.
I have so many questions about that, though. Like, how does, like, where on the car is it seeing from the facial recognition?
So if you're a self-driving car, you have 8 cameras on board. They're looking forward and back and to the sides. The latest ones also have LiDAR. They have all kinds of sensors to see what's around them. So, and they're processing all that. And they have to know the difference between a highway cone and a piece of newspaper blowing across the road. I mean, the other thing that's interesting about that is that none of these car manufacturers are sharing their programming with each other because they're all hoping to make a ton of money over it. Well, they estimate that in order to get a car fully self-driving, it's going to have to drive 1 million kilometers to learn.
Mm-hmm.
And so then for safety reasons, they have to save all this data that's recorded while it's driving along with 8 or 9 cameras and LiDAR, so that if in 10 years from now it runs over a kid and they get sued, they can say it's not our fault. Look, here's all the tests we did. Here's all the proof that we tried to mitigate that, So,
wow, the things you don't think about.
Yeah,
this blew my mind.
Yay!
I love that.
Wow,
I love how you bring that into your books. Like,
yeah.
Like,
I am curious about the heavy
sci-fi.
metal now. Part of it is, do you just listen to heavy metal, or have you performed heavy metal yourself?
No, the connection there is my daughter is a very, very good singer. She's in Hollywood. She has sung in some movies you may have seen. One of the DC movies, Birds of Prey, animated feature Sing 2. She's really good, and she's all about metal. And I mentioned earlier, I grew up in a religious community. We were not allowed to listen to metal. And in fact, we were told, don't ever listen to a Judas Priest album, because if you do, you will commit suicide. It happened to a kid. We can prove it.
Oh, okay.
What
about Queen? Were you able to listen to Queen?
Well, at some point I grew up, and then yes. So I actually didn't hear any metal until I was like 50. And then when I heard it, I thought it was hilarious and great fun. And I was flabbergasted that the people who raised me found it so scary and took it so seriously. So my daughter just took me to metal school. Okay, now you got to hear this. Now you got to hear this. And then I'd branch out on my own and go, wow, Avenged Sevenfold's pretty cool. I like their drummer. So, and of course, she was in a Black Sabbath all-female tribute called Black Sabbath. She was in all-female AC/DC tribute called Hell's Bells. She
Oh, that's
is a
cool.
rock singer. She can do all the stuff Heart does, any. So I got my education from her, and tagging along with her on gigs, I got to see the from the stage perspective, and not, well, yeah, behind the scenes, I guess, really, and go to her rehearsals and become the band videographer, and.
That's
So
Nice.
the metal credentials are a little bit phony, but not in the sense that I have the excitement of a new convert, right? Because it's kind of all new to me. And last November, uh, we finally got to see Judas Priest in concert, and I just had the best time.
Nice.
It's so funny to me because, again, having been raised being taught this is evil, this is bad, when you get in the metal community, I see that for a lot of people, that's the music is how they get their aggression out. And as a result, they're super mellow, super caring, really cool
so
people.
nice.
I'm not angry anymore.
When there was a terrible hurricane through Texas, and that right after that was when one of my daughter's bands toured through there, and they were like the first band in, Black Sabbath. And people were so happy that something normal was happening after they'd gone through all this survival stuff. And so there's comments, they're putting videos on YouTube and stuff. And I had to laugh because one of the comments somebody put was just, metal always heals.
Hey.
It's like, that's not what I was taught, but I kind of get it.
Yeah. What's your favorite? If you had to pick a favorite band
In metal,
Mm-hmm.
The Warning.
Okay.
You know The Warning?
No.
I do not.
3 Mexican sisters. They're incredible. I first encountered them on the 2023 MTV Music Awards. Just look them up.
Yeah.
I will.
They're spectacular. It's a power trio. I love them. But I just generally I don't like pure screamo. Like, I can't do Slipknot. I like the prog stuff fine. I can hang with Tool or System of a Down. I don't know. It's fun because in Metal Spies, that trio is Metal Spies, Metal Lies, and Metal Rise. And the whole middle book is in Korea. So we even have a couple of Korean metal bands in there. So it's all just part of the window dressing. It keeps it from being cookie cutter.
Yeah.
Now, are there any characters that are inspired by your daughter, since she is a metal singer?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That was actually the whole genesis of the book. That's a very perceptive question, Derek. So their lead singer is named Rory Jordan, and I like Rory, as the lead singer name. But remember, these guys are all con artists too. So one of her nicknames is the Queen of Shadows, and her big thing is she's an actress. She's a singer and an actress, but her favorite thing to do when she's acting is to fake like she's a medium. And she can fake cold read anybody. And there are passages in the books. Yeah, and she. Are you familiar with what Barnum statements are?
No, but it just being super perceptive reminds me of the show Psych.
Yes.
Sure. Yeah, that's a relevant reference. Yeah. But a Barnum statement is something that fake mind readers use all the time. And you'll get it if you get a tarot card read or you get your palm read or whatever. And so what Barnum statements are, they come from the circus fraud guy, P.T. Barnum. And it sounds like something that's very true and specific, but it's a general statement that's true of everybody. Mm-hmm. So they'll look you in the eye and they'll go, you're generally a skeptic, but you are open to change if the proof is there.
As we all are.
Well, yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's like, I can see that you have more to offer than people realize. Nobody really understands the greatness in you.
I've always felt that.
Well, yeah, but man, if somebody does that in a serious context and with tarot cards or what, you think, oh, they're seeing inside me. So that's her shtick, and she can do things like notice, okay, you're wearing a Microsoft T-shirt, but you actually don't have very nice clothes, So she's like, they're respected at work, but they don't really treat you well, do they? Just she's making up shit. And then you can tell from the feedback what's working and what's not. So you get some insight into how fake mediums work.
Right.
Whenever the Queen of Shadows is cooking in the book.
You learn so much in your book, is what you're telling me.
Yeah.
Well, some people think so. And to me, it's just a ton of fun. So that's her thing. Whenever they need to, con someone with a dose of spiritualism or woo woo or mystic whatever, the Queen of Shadows springs into action.
Okay.
And so she's an exaggerated and idealized version of my own daughter.
I love that. We always write what we know, right?
Well, yeah.
I mean, I don't know how to kill people, but I read about that.
So how big is the ensemble in the book?
Let me think about that. I guess it would be 7 all told because I'm including the sound man. And
okay.
He's important.
What's that?
I said he's important, the sound
man. Yeah. So one of my goals with this whole thing is I'm just a fan of all this stuff, right? Whether it's, I mentioned Ocean's 11, Mission Impossible, A-Team, but also James Bond and John Wick, all of it, right? But there's a certain point where when you consume as much of it as I have, and maybe we all have, it starts to get just a little bit samey. It's like, oh yeah, okay, yeah, yes, we have to have a car chase, but I almost feel like I've seen this car chase before. So one of my goals was to do all the tropes, but put some kind of fresh spin on them, right?
Yeah.
If you've ever seen Galaxy Quest, it's completely making fun of Star Trek, but it's actually a perfect Star Trek episode, right? Trope-wise. Or if you've seen Spam-A-Lot, it's making fun of Broadway plays while being an excellent Broadway musical, Yeah. So that's my goal. I'm not trying to go total farce. I'm not trying to disrespect the genre. I'm just having a little fun. So, for example, in Metal Spies, there's a car chase, but the wrinkle is they've been hired to lure an FBI agent into a trap. And so they stage a crime. The FBI agent is in his car on a stakeout, and they stage a crime near him and jump in their car and zip away, knowing that he will pursue. So car chase, it's pretty fun. It's all in the streets of Seattle, and people who live in this area can even recognize the landmarks. But the wheelman for Shadowfast, who is also their drummer, he's superbly skilled as a wheelman. And so he keeps losing the guy they're supposed to be luring. And so then they have to double back and help him find them again so they can resume the chase. Yeah. So that's my way of putting something a little fresh on a car chase.
This needs to be a movie.
Yes.
I would love it.
Boy, I could see it right now. Yeah. And my next thing that I'm going to say is not a question, it's a statement. Take my money.
Yeah.
Send it.
Yeah, the writing's great. I absolutely I'm mad that I haven't been able to read them all because I absolutely love book 1. I got like halfway through it and then life.
Thanks.
But the writing is great. So
this sounds amazing, and I know people that would appreciate this kind of story too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
I was excited when you said yes to come on to the podcast.
Oh, thank you. Yes. I'm going for a vibe a lot like, the first 15 years of Marvel movies when they were all really good. Where, there's adventure, but it's funny, but you actually are worried, and then it's hilarious, So that's what I'm trying for. It really is for fun. And I was thrilled when bestthrillerbooks.com described the first trilogy as epically fun. That's my favorite quote to toss around.
Love that.
So, your books, Derek, look epically fun also. I took a quick look.
Yeah, I loved writing the superhero series, The Ultimate Agent. I'm actually doing my first ever Comic-Con tomorrow at a local place. It's not like the big San Diego Comic-Con by any means.
That's all right. Still, you probably find your tribe. Yeah.
So yeah, I'm hoping to find more local readers, and just have some fun. There's going to be some WWE people there too at the con, so it's going to be fun to see them hanging out. There's writers that have done stuff for like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and Boom Studios, and yeah, my wife's going to be my my table assistant to help me out with trying to bring people in, talk about the books. But I'm excited.
That's
first
great.
time ever. So
you're in Canada, right?
I am, yeah, in Ontario.
So first of all, thank you for being willing to talk to an American.
Yeah.
Sorry. Totally
We're very,
sorry.
Very,
you gotta say sorry. It's sorry.
Okay, I can say sorry. I'm all about that.
I'll boot that, yeah. Unfortunately, my pet beaver's not here. You can tell I don't live in an igloo. No.
Yeah.
Honestly, I love talking to anybody. It doesn't matter where you're from.
Well, I'm excited for you, and I hope you rake in the loonies.
The loonies and toonies.
Networking. So cool. Your background is in publishing, a la carte publishing, lots of writing. As an indie author, what do you network now? Like, what do you keep for yourself to do, and what do you network out? And how do you find those people? And how do you decide who is a good fit for your team?
Oh, wow. That's such a great question. Okay, so, when I was doing all this network security stuff, basically my job, I was a marketer of technical products, a technical marketer. So I did business to business marketing, sum total about 18 years. I got pretty good at it. I made companies millions of dollars. I cannot tell you my chagrin to find out that to sell one book to one human being, none of that 18 years seemed to apply. I could not understand it. So it's just a whole different buy than here, buy this giant, big data volume that you can hold all the music of iTunes on, So one of the things I've had to do is take a bunch of courses on marketing. I'm tempted to do book covers because I did in the past, but I need to move at a pace faster than I can do covers, so I hire that out. And even though I have been an editor, I hire an editor to look over my stuff and a proofreader when it's all. And here's a hot tip, at least from my perspective, because I used to typeset books. I'm aware of how much crap can sneak in, even if the manuscript was perfect when you started to format it. So I see people who are having a proofreader read their manuscript and then they go format the book. No, man, they got to proof the formatted book, because that's where you're going to find out of, oops, in the print version, every line on this page ends with a hyphen, or, just weird things that you would never spot in the manuscript. Anyway.
That's
sorry, I'm kind of getting off the thread.
That happened to me with my latest book. Like, I had my editor, a proofreader, like I read over it again, had it sent to her for formatting, and it wasn't until people were reading the arc that someone brought stuff to my attention. And then as I looked more into Primeval Ranch, I'm going, there's more, and there's more. And I just ordered 60 paperbacks. Great.
Oh, man, yeah. But isn't it weird how that happens? I mean, we're not stupid, and we do try. I don't know how.
Like, my first book was 130,000 words. Like 20 of those were wrong. And I'm like, how are those? Like, I got the 130,000 of them right.
You get credit for those, Libby. That's okay. You still get a star.
But yeah, when I think sometimes in the programs you use too, I had this ellipses screen, they look one way, and then when I order the print and I get it in and I've ordered copies because I'm like, oh, it looks good, now I have to check all of my punctuation because my ellipses do not look how ellipses are supposed to look.
Wow.
And it's just, and I couldn't figure out how to format them right, so they all look funky in my books, and I'm like, I don't care.
The thing I struggled with in the last book was words that are spelled correctly but they're the wrong word. Yes. I just
like the meaning didn't quite.
No, I mean, there's a place where it's supposed to say what, and it says that. So spell check goes THAT, correct.
Yeah.
No, wrong word. And I found one place, for whatever confusion, I had a person talking. It was supposed to be the other character talking. The one that it said was talking was dead.
Oh.
Okay. I don't even know how that, anyway. So
the human brain's a funny thing.
Yeah, but I see it in trad pub books too. In fact, one of my favorite authors is Robert Craze, who writes Elvis Cole and Joe Pike. He's been a mystery writer for decades. And in his latest book, in the foreword, he thanks a new editor for taking over the editorial reins. And reins was spelled Reigns.
Editorial
It's like, holy cow,
reins.
is this a joke, or is that just a really unfortunate misspelling? The thing crediting the editor is editorially wrong.
Maybe a little tongue in cheek there.
Maybe. I just know we all try, and somehow the errorist strikes again.
Maybe the editor fixed it, and then he went back and put it in.
On purpose.
Yeah, maybe he actually doesn't like her.
Yeah.
It's an inside joke they have that no one else is going to know but them.
Right.
Yeah.
And then while he was at it, he switched all of Libby's ellipses.
Ellipses.
He knew no one would suspect him.
Yeah.
I use them all the time, and I'm like...
Same here.
And I don't know why. I use vellum to format my books.
Yeah, me too.
And so I don't know what I'm doing wrong. And then sometimes my hyphens aren't the right size, like M- and N-.
Yeah.
And like you can't see that really on the screen. So then when I get them in, and then like I'm in Okinawa, so I've just accepted the fact that some of those are going to be wrong in the book because it takes so long for the proofs to get to me that I can't check them all.
Yeah.
I'm like, you know what?
Wait, when you're working on this, you're not on the elliptical, are you?
Ellipses on the elliptical.
Yeah, I had to put a Post-it note on my computer screen with the keystrokes for a good hard M- and an N-.
I need to do that.
Yeah.
Do you do it in vellum? Like, is that
Yeah.
Okay. Can you message me the keystrokes for that? Because mine do not, like, I have to like mask go in and like control find and try to fix them, and then that doesn't work. And I'm like, this is
that doesn't do it.
Stupid. Well, because I'll put the wrong one in, and then I have to go back and fix it.
Oh, again. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Is it not the same as the Control Alt and then the small dash for the numbers?
No. Yeah. I'm on a Mac. Are you?
I'm on a Mac.
Okay. Yeah. I think it's Option Shift hyphen.
I feel left out now.
Yeah, you should. Are you living in the 80s?
It's a good gaming laptop.
Acer is pretty good, I think.
Yeah, Acers are good. It's better than a Dell. I hated my Dell.
I used to have a Dell years ago.
I went through like 4 Dells before we're like, we are never buying one ever again.
Yeah, no kidding. I mean, having worked at Dell for almost 10 years, their policy was you can have a new computer every 2 years. So I just know my Macs usually last me around 8 years. So yeah, draw your own conclusions.
My other Mac, we've had it almost 10 years. And it's finally now giving us a hard time. We're going to do a hard reset on it. It's for the kids. But yeah, my Mac's, knock on wood.
And unfortunately, when I had a Dell, I never saw any of your videos on Dells.
Maybe that would have made a difference if I actually knew how to use it. Maybe. That's the secret weapon. Is we need.
I'll send you a ton of them.
You should pop them all up on YouTube.
I was about to say that.
There's so many of them there.
I'm gonna go searching now. So okay, so you do an editor, you do a cover designer, you do a proofreader.
Yeah.
Anything else?
I'm taking courses on marketing.
Yes.
I'm in the middle of one that's been very interesting to me, Click Testing for Authors by Steve Piper. It's kind of a game changer. It's obscenely expensive, so I hope it works out. But I need a force multiplier to lift my sales up to the next level. Mm-hmm. And so I have to learn to advertise on Facebook and Instagram. So far, I've just been doing newsletter swaps and book sweep and fussy librarian and, that kind of stuff. So it's really interesting. He shows you a method using Meta's ads manager where he just tests one thing at a time. So like you have a tagline for your book. You think it's pretty clever, but what do audiences think of it, you know? So he has you make up 8 or 9 or 10 taglines and you just put them on a block of color. They're all identical except for the words because you just want to test for the one thing, and then you send them out and see how many people click on them. And you don't want to spend endless money on your test, so you can tell ad manager after it gets clicked on 400 times, just turn it off.
Yeah.
And you're trying to see if you can get a click-through rate of more than 2.5% at less than 40 cents a click. Kind of going in the weeds there. So each time you run one of these tests, part of his premise is that you are not your audience, right? So more than half of what you think is super cool, they don't. Maybe 95%. So you find out getting objective data on what are the winners. And so when I do a round of 10, I will get at least 2 and sometimes 4 that meet that criteria of they got the clicks, they didn't cost too much. So, and then you do another test, you pick a testimonial about your book and do 9 different testimonials and run those and see which one appeals to your readers. Well, by the time you're done stepping through all these things, you basically are building the super ad where every bit of it has already tested as really clickable, So I had no clue about any of that from my business to business background. I was writing stuff to help salesmen overcome objections in person and things that, it's just not the same. So that's part of the, basically the overall maxim is staff your weakness. There may be some other writer who absolutely knows marketing to consumers and they don't need the help I need, but they might need help figuring out how to structure their tale because they're a discovery writer and they don't know how to shape it.
I think I love that the most about the indie author journey is everyone gets to find what their strengths are. Like,
yes,
I can tell a story. I know I can tell a story. Like, I'm good at that. Apparently, I can make covers. I'll never make them again. I did make my own covers. I love them. Not happening again because, I need to spend more time on writing than procrastinating making new covers.
There's something about putting in that work, though, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So you put in the work, you figure out what you're good at, you figure out what you're not good at, and then you outsource. So when I taught ELA at the beginning of the school year, I was a long-term sub ELA at a high school, and I am terrible with commas. I'm just bad with them, and I know that. And I actually tried to I think book 2, I was like, I'm gonna get these right for the editor, and the editor's like, don't fucking try. Stop trying. You're making it worse. And I was like, okay. So I don't do them. And so I told my students, I'm like, find what you're good at when you're writing. And then what you're not good at, we'll work on it. But when you get to the real world, if you are using this, you hire somebody who's good at that for you. And I think that's really nice because I get to find what, I'm really good at this. I'm really good at TikTok. I am terrible at Instagram. Finding what you're good at. It's like discovery writing, but for your life.
Yeah. Well, along those lines, I was talking to you before we recorded. I mean, when I was growing up, all the teachers are really trying to get you to learn English and learn how to write and learn composition, and they will really reward you for being a wordsmith, right? And I've actually met other young writers who's like, why can't I sell any books? I got all A's in college. It's like, it has nothing to do with it. Before anybody sees your words, they have to think your premise is interesting. And I was never trained in public school, first make sure your premise is interesting, because usually they're telling you the premise you have to write to.
Yeah.
Which is rarely interesting.
Yeah, right.
So that was another thing I had to learn. Even being traditionally published, I thought because I was good with words, I was on easy street. But no, if someone looks at your book and I kind of like some literary fiction, but if it says, a luminous journey of what we all need to learn about what's inside it, I'm out. I'm already out. I don't care if you can write circles around anybody. I don't want that premise.
No, I don't care.
Exactly. So I also found that from there, then the story structure has to matter. Again, your words could be wonderful, but if there's just too many of them,
Yeah.
like in
The
Amadeus, there's
prose.
too many notes.
Yeah.
Again, you're losing people.
Mm-hmm.
So
You
I'm,
have to
I'm
have the
supporting
right
your
amount of
point.
action, a little bit of,
Oh
slow down
yeah,
a little bit, and then back to the
And
action.
and you got to know your genre and your audience. Like
yeah,
if
yeah,
you are writing, like if you're writing an epic fantasy, it's going to be long and you're going to have these beautiful long sentences and all of this. And if you're writing a thriller, it's going to be short and fast. Like you have to
Mm-hmm.
know your genre.
yeah.
So like you have to learn. You got to read, you got to write, you got to ask people, you have to have people look at your stuff and be like, this sucks, but I like this. Lean into this.
I think it helps if you love your genre too. Because I
That,
see a
yep.
lot of authors, you get this advice that says, write to the market, find out what's
No.
popular. Well, you know what? What I'm doing is so unpopular in the thriller thing. Right now, thrillers are all about domestic thrillers and psychological
Yes.
thrillers, and
Right.
they're falling off the shelf. There's so many of them. And I read some. I enjoy, what's her name? Rachel Ware, Frida Ward. They're good commercial writing. I just don't want to do it.
Yeah.
And if
Yeah.
I went, I need a paycheck, I'm going to fake my way through a psychological thriller. I think the reader can sense that it's on some level phony,
Yeah,
or
not genuine.
it's not
Yep.
going to hold up to the people who are doing it because they love doing it.
Yeah.
So know your genre, but love your genre, I would suggest.
I agree.
People,
Yeah.
like you say, people can always tell. I know even for my readers, I always try to put like real, true human emotion. And I find even with dialogue, like use words real people are going to use.
Yeah.
Don't try to put something in there like, oh, this is a Joe Schmo saying something very eloquent. Like make it true to what the character should actually sound like.
Yeah. Yeah, I learned that from reading Elmore Leonard. He back in
Okay.
the day in the 80s when he was at the height of his powers, he was famous for his authentic dialogue. And remember, again, your English teachers are telling you write in complete sentences and get the commas right and all that stuff we're talking about. And he would have a character and it would say on the page, the hell? There's no what, right? But that is how
Yeah,
people talk.
Yeah.
Someone
exactly.
hits you with something that kind of pisses you off. You're like, the hell? So, yeah, right the way they talk. It's kind of hard to develop your ear. I have just, produced my own audiobooks, and it's pretty a revelation reading your own book out loud because then you find out if it's natural language or not.
So,
Yes.
sorry, you read it yourself or you hired a
Yeah.
narrator?
Yeah.
Oh,
Again,
cool.
Adele, I won awards for voiceover, uh,
Okay.
but it was all corporate stuff, right? And I'm very good at the recording mechanics. Um, so I thought, well, this is a natural. And I started in on these books, and in all candor, I discovered, oh, I can't act. I didn't have to do characters when I was doing corporate voiceover. So I had to get some training. I had to scale up, and get better at that. So,
I
uh,
love that. I
yeah,
love
I
that.
mean, it's if you love learning, then be an indie writer.
Yeah. If you like trying new things, if you like failing and then trying again,
Yeah.
definitely be an indie author. Like I
See, I would
knew
love
that
to
you,
narrate.
yeah, I knew that you narrated. That's exciting because you narrated to put them up on YouTube first, correct?
Well, so I'm trying to keep. I'm too many thoughts competing for my tongue. Uh, to make it as an indie writer, you need a lot of product, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
pretty new in this game. I mean, I've been in writing forever, but as the pen name Cold Chase writing thrillers with F bombs in them, I started in the first book came out in October 2023, so it's not even 2 whole years yet. Um, so I'm trying to keep an aggressive schedule and just pump out titles. You were calling it rapid release. I was scheduled to record and I had allotted a certain time to record, and I came home from Germany with this exotic form of COVID that had not been anywhere except in Germany. I couldn't sound normal. It attacked my throat. I couldn't hardly breathe, and I couldn't make a good sounding recording for a month straight. But because I'd done all this voiceover for corporations, I had tons and tons of voice files. So I gave them to 11 labs, where if you give them somewhere between 2 and 3 hours of your voice, they will make an AI clone of your voice that is indistinguishable from you. And it worked. I had it make the clone. I sent 2 files to my wife of the same text. I go, which one is me and which one is the AI? She couldn't tell. So I let AI read my first 3 books. It sounded like me, but as far as expressiveness and performance, it's somewhere in between me and Siri. And it wasn't totally robotic, but it wasn't very expressive. And because it's AI, it's not tying a tone to a character. Like I have one, this is part of my thing of trying to keep it fresh. Hackers in all the thrillers are always these nerdy men or women, skinny, brainy. I worked in big data for a lot of years. The guy who knew the most at my office was this giant Samoan guy who looked almost like Jason Momoa. So that's my hacker in the Shadowfast.
Nice.
So he has a deep voice. Not when 11 Labs reads it. He just has whatever voice 11 Labs randomly picks. So yes, you can get my audiobooks free on YouTube on the Cold Chase channel. If you don't mind the performance being limited, the story is strong.
Yeah.
If you want something closer to a real performance, now they're showing up on Audible and lots of other places. They passed all the quality reviews with Findaway voices, so they'll soon be showing up on Spotify and a lot of other places, but it just takes a while to trickle through.
That's so cool. So many talents. You're very talented. So
Well,
many aspects.
Also, you mentioned Facebook, so I sent you a Facebook friend request.
Nice.
So
you have a nice voice,
if you want to be my friend. Thank you.
Derek, if you have any inkling, are you okay with the audio engineering side of it? Is it something you either know or would like to know?
So we did interview Libby's narrator earlier this season, Michael Neeb, and he actually lives like 10, 15 minutes away from me.
Don't ask me anything, then ask that guy. He's
so
great.
Yeah, I have to message him and just see, because I believe he has like a whole narrating shed set up.
He has a whole new studio in the backyard that I'm.
Yeah. So I got to ask him if I can just like come over sometime and just
take a whack at it. Nice. I mean, you got a nice resonant voice, so you might find you enjoy it.
It's a superhero series I would love to do, but I keep saying I would have to work on the Russian accent.
I found a great video. I'll see if I can find you. I had to do a Russian accent in my books. Thankfully, there's probably only 5 Russian accent lines across 3 books. So if it was a main character, I wouldn't try it. But I found a video that's spectacular. They tell you everything to change and where to place it in your mouth and face and everything to sound more Russian. It was great. You got me there.
Yeah, it's either that or one of my novellas. They do come across a Scottish character.
Okay.
So that one's a bit like, I've watched a lot of Doctor Who, so I know David Tennant. And like even the word guttle, a guttle. So there's little inflections and how to use the tongue. And,
right. Yes.
So
fun. What are your influences, Derek? I mean, I looked at the superhero stuff, and there's quite a melange of different influences going in there to me.
Yeah, the superhero stuff was like, when I was young, I was still obsessed with dinosaurs. I have been for years. I originally wrote a book called Dino Man. And I did a deep dive into Marvel just to make sure I wasn't copying anything. Because Marvel's done so much, DC has done so much too, right?
Yeah, true.
And I actually ended up using that character for... he kind of became the sidekick to Spider-Man for fan fiction. So I kind of did something like that, but then as time went on, I talked to a friend and was like, hey, what if there was spies that had abilities and kind of became spy superheroes? And that's kind of what grew the Ultimate Agent side of things. But it's the novella that I did in the Ultimate Agent where they come across the Loch Ness Monster via Time Rift stuff, that's kind of what became the spin-off of Dino Rift, becoming its own series.
Okay, so you're doing hardcore literary fiction.
In a way, but I always, whatever I see as like my main story, I'm always looking for the spin-off. Like I introduced this character, what could they maybe do on their own? Or I just introduced this, the time travel thing. Oh, what if a couple teenagers fell through or got thrown through a time rift? Yeah. Right? And there's just all these little branches that come off, like my little, I call it the Born verse at this point. So yeah, it's fun though. I am working on a alternate timeline post-apocalyptic project as well. That is still linked to everything because it's alternate timeline.
I like how interconnected it all is.
Yeah. People are saying it's kind of like how Marvel is, everything's connected in one way or another.
Yeah, they can lean a little too hard on the multiverse, though, towards the end of this run here.
They're about to do a reset.
Yep.
Are they? I don't keep track.
So, in my humble opinion, I think James Gunn is the best superhero director.
Yeah.
And I think Superman is the worst superhero property. So I'm so intrigued to see what Superman is this summer when you have the best director with the worst character. I've seen the little 5-minute preview. It's like, holy cow, I'm actually interested. So
yeah, see, I don't like superheroes. I just don't follow superheroes. But I did like Smallville. Like I thought that was so well written character-wise. Have you seen it?
I never watched it actually, but I did watch the first couple episodes. I think it's on Amazon Prime.
Probably.
But I just got to keep going.
Yeah. Just their character arc. So Lex Luthor, that's my favorite Lex Luthor because his character arc from wannabe hero to villain is so well done.
I see.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's quite an arc.
Yeah. Have you seen it, Smallville?
I'm like Derek. I watched a couple episodes.
Okay.
I check all that stuff out. Wasn't that a CW show originally?
Yeah, it was a CW.
Yeah. Very early CW.
Very, very, yeah.
I didn't find very many of those rewarding. Like I look at all of them for at least an episode or two. If I don't feel like I'm learning something or having fun.
Yeah.
Libby, have you ever seen The Peacemaker? It's on HBO.
No.
But
with Cena, right?
Yeah, John Cena.
Yeah.
Because your sensibility in your books can go pretty dark. And Peacemaker is like the darkest comedy you can have. But the part that amazes me about it is that it feels like complete chaos because none of the characters are competent and nobody gets along. Mm-hmm. But by the end of the series, everybody has arced. It's like a magic trick. It's like, wait, you were doing character stuff? I was just noticing all this loony, out of control, nutty, So it's worth a look.
I'll have to check it out.
Yeah.
I love how you said that her stuff gets very dark and she took it as a compliment.
Oh, yeah.
Love it.
Such a compliment.
You judge the book by the author's intent, right?
Yeah. True. Me, I'm like the funny jokes all the time, humor type writer.
Well, I was actually surprised when Libby said she doesn't know how to kill somebody. I think she's lying.
She teaches jujitsu.
Okay,
exactly.
So I may know how to do some things. I haven't done them. How about that? I don't have practical application.
Okay, I got you.
Okay,
you don't have experience.
I have a very wide knowledge base.
Yes,
but I do.
How did you get into that?
Jiu-jitsu,
so you married a military guy, right? Are you a military kid also, or
no military kid over here? But yeah, my husband joined after we got together, and then so he joined the military. But my martial arts has nothing to do with him per se. So we lived in Japan 10 years ago. I had my son out here, and it's so safe. Like it is very safe, and also like Americans were very big and tall. So when we went back to America, I felt very unsafe all the time. I was anxious all the time with my kids. I didn't want to go out, and I didn't know why. Like I couldn't pinpoint like, no, I don't want to do this. No, I don't want to do this. And then it kind of hit me like, it's because I feel unsafe. So we started the kids, and before I had this realization, we started the kids in martial arts because I wanted them in martial arts. So they were doing their thing and they had a women's class. And they're like, hey, you should come try it out. I'm like, yeah, that'll be fun. I'm already here. And I fell in love with it because it teaches boundaries. It teaches a lot of things that as a 28-year-old woman, I did not know how to say no to people. I was a people pleaser. Like, I guess I'll do this for you. Like, I'll feel bad. Mm-mm. When I can like choke you out with my legs without a lot of effort, like I'm not watching your freaking kids if I don't want to watch your freaking kids. Because like I would be like, my neighbors who I did not like would be like, can you watch my kids? Like I have to. I'm like, I guess I'll watch your kids. Like I always say yes because I'm a helper. I like to help. I like to problem solve.
Yeah.
But I didn't have boundaries, and jujitsu taught me how to have boundaries and then the ability to establish those boundaries, which was life changing for me. Because I'm like,
fantastic.
Susan, I'm not going to watch your fucking kids. I don't like them. I don't.
Or
like
I might choke them out with my legs. Whatever.
What are you going to do to me? Like, what are you going to do to me when I say no to you? Like, honestly.
Yes, I get that. Yeah.
And so that was like, that's how I got into it. And then I fell in love with teaching other women how to find their own voice and their ability to say no and to leave situations that they're not happy in. So that was like the catalyst. But I wrote book 1 before I started martial arts.
Really?
Because I worked on, I wrote that.
I would not have guessed that, actually.
Well, it wasn't published. So I went back and I did fix it up.
Oh,
but okay. I did have all the action scenes and everything because I love James Bond, all of that. I love action. I love all of it. So I was like, that's what I want to do. I actually wanted to work for the CIA. Like that's what I wanted to do when I was a kid. Yeah. I actually got into a program and talked to somebody about getting into it. And then I lost funding and I wasn't able to go to that school. And so that was very sad. So I was like, I'll just write about it because I can't do it.
I think the CIA would have hired you if you found a way to sneak in.
Probably. Yeah.
If that's still an area of interest, there's a book called The Sisterhood that is well worth reading. It's a lady who went around and interviewed every CIA female case officer she could find. And I used it as research for my second Thrillogy because we get introduced to a mysterious woman named Grace Sullivan who claims that she's the main hero's long-lost mom. And he has to figure out what's up with that. And she says the reason she's been gone is because she's been a 3-letter agency case officer all this time. I had to figure out what the heck is that about. And that book was fantastic. And the reason she's called Grace Sullivan is because when the CIA started, and basically the secretarial pool was a bunch of women with top secret clearance typing stuff for macho, arrogant guys, every single one of them would sign their name Grace Sullivan.
Oh.
Okay.
They never use their real names.
Right.
So, added to the list.
It's really a good read, man.
Yeah. But yeah, that's how I got into the martial arts.
Yeah, cool. So you I don't know who that was.
That was Libby. Something. That wasn't me. I think that was your Libby, Derek.
No, she's sleeping, but something did fall. I don't know what it is.
Anyway.
So I have a question for you, Libby. You just gave us a meaningful answer and a life journey, but now I'm going to move it to trivia because that's where I'm comfortable. You know how people watch a movie and if it covers their expertise, they get offended. Like I've done a lot of ride-alongs with cops and they are always telling me, oh, I hate it in TV shows where the perpetrator just confesses and never asks for a lawyer. And, so jiu-jitsu, something about the way bodies move in conflict. So how does it look to you when someone like Kate Beckinsale or, I don't know, Scarlett Johansson is beating up a guy 3 times their size? Is any of this feasible, or does at some point physics and math come into it?
It is feasible. It depends if you can catch them off guard and how relentless you are. But some of it's not feasible. Like when we train, it is like you're training for an opportunity to get away. But like if we're both at the same like energy level, but like they're much bigger than you, like I'm gonna run out of energy first. So it just doesn't work. Like you have to tire them down in order to win, or you have to have like a devastating way to blow them. Like punch for punch, you can't go punch for punch with someone bigger than you. It just doesn't work.
All I know is I would not want to fight Libby ever.
You know. But I do get really frustrated when, like, there's two pet peeves of mine when I watch TV.
That's what I'm here for.
There's this thing called like a trap and roll. So if someone's sitting on top of you and choking you, like, there's things to do to get them off of you. And when they're just like,
Yeah,
like, that's not going to work. And it's like they're supposed to be. I don't know. It's so frustrating. The other thing is, I got this when I'm watching Criminal Minds and stuff, and we're watching the like the victims, and they're just like yelling and screaming is not gonna stop screaming. Why are you screaming? Like, you've screamed for like 5 minutes and nobody's coming. Okay, so like come up with a plan. Or like I watched one and they like attacked the guy and then they dropped their weapon right next to him, and I'm like,
oh,
of course.
Yeah.
Like, why?
Convenient.
Go
for the
back
plot.
to screaming. Like, so I get frustrated with that because I'm like, I mean, I know it happens because people aren't trained, but at the same time, I'm like, I don't think anybody who had a weapon, who, like, you hit them over the head with the hammer, like, why would you put the hammer down right next to them? Why? That's my frustration when I watch.
Yeah, no, that's fun.
Fight scenes.
See, if that was me in the scene that happened, I'd be like, do you want me to put the hammer down? Go all Thor.
Pick it back up.
Oh, I want you to get to the chopper.
Yeah,
Run.
get to the chopper.
Yeah.
Throw it out a window or something. I don't know. Don't put it next to the guy who's trying to kill you. And then just beat on the door. Like, you didn't even check to make sure the door was like, I don't know. Anyways.
Yeah, I know what you mean. It's just funny. If you know, you can have a lot of suspension of disbelief, but when it triggers an area that you know, I've seen guys get very mad at dumb gunplay in a movie when already the premise was beyond silly, you know, but it's like, you wouldn't use a 22 there. It has no stopping power, you know. Like,
and you're like,
fine.
Okay, well, they're vampires, so like...
Exactly. That part I buy. That's totally cool.
Like,
I totally believe in a giant green rage monster.
Exactly.
Yeah. I do try to write my fight scenes, though, as realistically as possible, for the fact that, like, I practice them. And that is something, like, in my books, when people who train read them, they're like, you know what you're doing. I'm like, yes.
Yes.
Yes, I do.
I think
Thank you so much.
It's a fine line, right? Because I don't know if you... The top of the heap in the action thriller world right now, I think, is probably Mark Greaney, who came up writing Tom Clancy books and now has had, I think his 14th Gray Man book. Mm-hmm. And I think what puts his stuff, so
that's like the movie that came out on Netflix.
Well, the movie's wretched compared to the book.
Mm-hmm. Really? Okay. I've only seen the movie.
Oh, well, there are already 9 books out in that series before Netflix put the movie out. So the latest one is Midnight Black, where he has to free a Confederate from a prison deep in Russia. So I've had a discussion with other thriller writers, and there's a sense in which this goes back to what we said earlier. The prose is not stellar. A lot of it is passive voice, and there's never any poetic figures of speech or anything like that. But the guy researches his butt off. He's gone to over 30 countries to make sure that what he's writing is correct. He puts
the work in.
Yes. And I think that's kind of the difference between the top tier escape fiction and sort of crappy, read it, maybe enjoy it, but definitely forget it. Is when people get this sense that they're learning something or that there's some authenticity underlying all the mayhem or whatever. I think readers really respond to that.
Yeah.
So
I've actually had people ask me, because like my superhero series is very international. I've had people ask me, have you been to these countries? And I'm going, I've never been to Australia, but I've always loved the look of the Opera House, and I just wanted to use it for an action scene.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you know what? Google and Google Maps, they did wonders.
Yeah.
Just to see like, positioning. And I found a restaurant that the characters go to first, and then it goes into an action scene.
The research and attention to detail. Like, even if you're not a phenomenal writer, but you can tell a phenomenal story.
Yeah.
Like, that's...
Well, yeah, I think that's actually more potent than a phenomenal writer if you've got a storyteller bones.
Yeah.
You know, you think of someone like Louis L'Amour or Clive Cussler, they're not Shakespeare by any means, but boy, can they rip a yarn, you know. But of course, the two-sided coin of that is you can research so much that now you're showing off your research. You just got to put the fact that you know whatever how far it is from one side of the airport to the other side, or something that doesn't even really play into the story.
Yeah, there's that fine line of now I'm overdoing it, and now
I actually had someone catch me on Primeval Ranch because I guess I didn't have enough time between traveling from one point to another in Texas. I actually made it almost too short, and someone that lived there called me out on it, and I'm going, I'm sorry. Oh.
I'm horrified whenever I'm writing. I mean, there's lots of gunplay in my books. That's part of the tropes, right? But I'm not a firearm owner at this time. So I'm really scared because I know at least a third of America knows more about guns than I do. So I always research that to death.
Even when you research it, you'll get a little bit wrong, and I think that's okay.
Well, I bought a class where I got to go down to a firing range and shoot the 12 most popular handguns.
Nice.
So now I have a clue, and I understand, it's like people always mention, oh, James Bond with his Walter PPK. Turns out that's a freaking tiny little gun. And he's not carrying it because it's badass. He's carrying it because you can be secret with it.
Yeah. Yep.
Well, you can put it in a coat jacket and it won't have this big bulge, So it's handy to know that kind of stuff.
Man, we've been talking over an hour already.
Editing ahead.
Editing, yeah.
Yeah. So I want to have you on again, Cole, because this was so much fun.
Thank you.
Definitely.
Yeah. Is there anything that you want our listeners to know about you, about your books, about what you're doing coming up?
Oh, well, thanks. I mean, I got to express a lot of it. If you are a huge thriller fan, but some of what you're reading is starting to feel like, I think I've seen this before, give Shadowfast a try. And there's 2 trilogies, and you actually can read either one first. So give it a shot. They're also coming out in audiobooks if that's your thing. And the other thing that's different besides it being a team instead of just a guy is that people are surprised that the endings are often uplifting. You go through some cliffhangers that at times seem brutal, but by the end you might end the book feeling kind of good, which is not normal in a thriller. So see if it's your thing.
Love that. Well, thank you so much for coming on. We'll definitely have you back on again if you'd like to come.
Thanks.
And where can everybody find you?
Oh, I'm most active on Facebook. I'm on Instagram. I'm on Blue Sky whenever I remember to look at it. I got on there yesterday and went, oh, it's been a month since I looked at Blue Sky. But you can find me with the word Cold Chase. There is another guy who's named Cold Chase, and he did time for his crimes. That's not me.
Okay. Okay. Just to be clear.
Yeah. He puts a hyphen between Cole and Chase. Don't do that.
Oh.
And thank you so much. I loved talking with you, and Libby, especially appreciate your many kindnesses over the last year or so, and your leadership in helping teens read is spectacular. And Derek, same for you. Your books are catnip for teens. So
catnip.
Yeah,
I have yet to see kids rolling around with my books.
You just need to ask them to send video.
Yeah,
maybe
they're probably doing it. You just don't have the record.
It's possible.
Yet.
It's possible.
All right. Thanks.
Thank you guys so much, and we'll see you next time.